Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we'll go over how to be the best wizard in Prominence II Hasturian era. The target dummy isn't fully correct in the average DPS at the bottom of your screen. Sometimes you have to break it and put it back again because sometimes it looks at your damage that you've done within a certain amount of period altogether. So what you have to do is break it and place it again and it will fix it, but sometimes it may be not fully accurate. So we'll also be looking at the numbers at the top of the dummy that appears to better understand the damage we are doing. I just want to say also that the wizard class early game struggles a lot because wizard class shines when you get accessories and enchantments and can get your talent tree up further in the late game. So that's when wizard truly shines. If you really want to do the most DPS, I would recommend going with a physical damage class like warrior or something else that would do more damage. Even mid game it struggles a bit, but late game is where it truly shines and probably is one of the best classes in Prominence II. I just want to say also I am playing on Prominence II Hasturian era version 3.1.10. So if you do not see the damage outputs that I am doing, then it's probably because they nerfed something or maybe buffed. I don't know. But wizard class does a lot of damage late game right now, so they might nerf it soon. So yeah, let's get right into it. So let's start off with early game, where you'll be mainly using the wizard robe gear. This is pretty easy to get and all it requires is some wool to craft. You could also go with the frost robe gear, but that does require prismarine, which I don't expect you to get right away. To go with that, we'll be using the tanzanite accessories such as the tanzanite rings and necklace, and as well as the Tome of Frost, and you'll be using the frost staff mainly as your main weapon. You could also go for the frost wand and novice wand, but keep in mind they will do less damage. You should also have a lot of frost runes on you, because I do not expect you to have spell infinity as an enchantment right away. Something that not a lot of people do or follow the quest book for your gear and weapons. This is an excellent way to see how you should progress through the game. The unlocking abilities pages show you what spell books you should get for your class, and your combat and gear section shows you how and when you should get your gear. To make frost runes, you can either make it in a crafting table with a cobblestone and snowballs, which will give you 2 frost runes, or you can make it in a rune crafting altar, which will give you quadruple the amount of frost runes that you can make in a crafting table. For example, here, 1 snowball and 1 cobblestone will give me 8 frost runes. To make a Tome of Frost, you can get just a spellbinding table, put a book in there, and with just 1 enchantment level you can make a Tome of Frost. If you put more bookshelves around the spellbinding table, you can get a tier 2 frost book, which is called the Techniques of Frost. Once you get the Tome of Frost, put it back in the spellbinding table, and with bookshelves around the spellbinding table and lapis, you can enchant the Tome of Frost with 4 spells: Frostbolt, Frost Nova, Frost Shield, and Blizzard. These are the 4 early game spells that you can get. Now let's put on our wizard armor and tanzanite accessories with our frost runes and Tome of Frost and test out our damage. Remember, you can put the rings and the Tome of Frost inside your trinket slots or your accessory slots. Your Tome of Staff will be your most powerful weapon, so I will be using this as my main weapon for this stage. Your 4th spell, the Blizzard spell, will also be your most powerful spell in defending off large hordes of mobs or doing a lot of damage to certain bosses in the early stage. Keep in mind, the first boss that you will probably fight is a Lich, and I would not recommend using the wizard class for this boss, as it is recommended using warrior or archer, especially archer being your best suited class for this boss. But anyways, right now we do about 5.6 damage, which is probably not enough to take out most mobs. But we can up our damage a bit more by doing one more thing, and that is by going into your talent tree and going through the frost power nodes, which will give you more frost power. In the early stage of the game, we can't get most of the talent tree, so I will only get about 8 nodes here to represent early game. And with these nodes, now we significantly do more damage because each frost node is 3% damage. And if you know about percentages, it rises exponentially. So now with these changes, we do about 7.6 damage consistently and sometimes 11.6 with critical. So now we do more than a diamond sword, which is pretty good for early game. Now it is time to move on to mid game. You'll be mainly using the frost gear this time, as well as netherite tanzite rings and netherite tanzite necklace. You'll also be using the netherite frost staff, as well as the frost of techniques as the spell book. As you can see, we get a new set of spells with this book, and already we notice our damage go up a bit, 8 to 14 damage consistently, sometimes more with crit damage. And as you can see, also our DPS at the bottom is showing that it is doing 23 damage per second. If we use our most powerful spell, the 5th spell in the slot, we do anywhere from 30 to 45 DPS per second consistently. This is more than enough for most mobs in the mid stage of the game. If you have an enchantment table, it also helps to get enchantments on your armor. We don't need to go too hard on the enchantments, as we are only on the mid stage of the game. For now, we can put random enchantment on our armor. The best enchantments to get on your armor to do more DPS is Amplify Spell and Spell Volatility. For more survivability, we should also get Protection. You can also put Spell Haste or Spell Power on your wand to get more damage or cast spells faster. Spell Infinity also is a good enchantment to get on your wand or staff, because that means you do not have to use runes anymore, frost runes anymore, to use your spells. You can also reforge your weapon and your armor to get extra damage. The best reforges we can get in this stage is probably epic, as galena and pyrite is hard to get, so I would just recommend getting epics with limestone chunks. Now with our right clicks, we do significantly more damage, and with our most powerful spell, the 5th spell, we also do consistently over 50 DPS. In this stage, you can also get some accessories that will help you survive in battles longer. For speed, you should get running shoes or running socks. For night vision, you should get the monocle. For fall damage resistance, you should get the high thighs, any one of the thigh highs. To take less damage, you should also get 2 turtle bracers. And for more survivability, you should get the undying soul. It is fine if you don't have all of these. It is kind of hard to get. It is kind of a grind to get all of these, but I do recommend getting these to go into the late game. Now let us move on to end game. Some tips before moving on to end game. I would highly recommend by now you getting galena chunks. With this, you can get a new set of frost armor and get these to mythic rarities with reforging. Before you upgrade your armor to netherite, this is really helpful because reforging your regular frost armor only takes wool and galena. Then upgrade your armor with netherite so you don't have to use netherite to reforge your armor. Also, your armor should have Amplify Spell 3, Soul Frost 5, and Spell Volatility 2 for the highest damage, and for survivability, Protection 5 and Magic Protection 5 to increase your survivability. You should also do the same with your staff. If you already have a netherite staff, just remake another staff and reforge that all the way to mythic, then upgrade it to netherite. This way you will take up less netherite to reforge. For endgame, I would recommend 2 weapons, either the Frostborn Blade of the Fallen King, or I would recommend the Kezel, the Frozen Destiny staff. You get this staff by first getting the Ekawar Great Cinderstone staff. The Skellag Forge weapons take encased remnants to reforge, which is super hard to get, so I would highly recommend reforging them in the previous stages, like I did with the armor and staff. This way it is easier to get a mythic rarity. For our talent tree, we will upgrade our talent tree once again, and this time we'll get 2 super good talents which will exponentially increase our damage. The Frost Archmage and the Critical Thinking nodes are really good for increasing your damage. Now for accessories, I recommend the Glacial Shard Necklace and the Permafrost Stone Rings, which you can find in the end structures after beating the end dragon. And for the spellbook, we'll be using the same spellbook, which is the Frost Techniques. Now with all these gear upgrades, we do about 150 damage with each right click and left. Also with our most powerful spell, we do about anywhere from 200 to 350 DPS to the target dummy, which is really good and can do a lot of damage to the bosses. The Charm of Regeneration 2 and putting hardening crystals on it will make it infinite. This means you can always permanently have Regeneration 2 on you. You can also put hardening crystals on your armor and weapons so it never breaks. For our talent tree, we'll get all the frost nodes that we can get, and also get the Cataclysm node, which will give us plus 20 corruption, and will do more damage with more corruption with our ultimate ability. Now with our ultimate ability spell, we do a whopping 450 DPS. We rise from 200 to 450 DPS per second. If we fully upgrade our weapon with the Molten Cores or Infusion Molten Remnants, now we can go to the ability tree once again and upgrade our talent tree on our weapon itself. So for the Frostmourne Blade, we should get all the nodes with more damage, so we can do more damage. And then for the final ability, get the Frozen Infusion passive ability. This will give us plus 20 corruption and plus 5 frost power, which will make us do even more damage. With corruption smithing templates and Zal necklaces, we can also put corruption on our armor, which if you have too much of, I do not recommend because you will constantly take damage. But for testing purposes, if we put Zal necklaces on our armor, for enchantments on your weapon, mainly put Ambush 1, Echo 6, Sharpness 6, Smite 6, Spell Haste 5, Spell Infinity, and Spell Power 5 on your weapon to do the most amount of damage. To do even more damage, use the Echo War Staff as your weapon to do even more damage. For your ability tree or talent tree, for your weapon, you should follow this line of path and get the Frozen Infusion on your staff. With all these changes, now we will do about 600, anywhere from 600 to 1000 DPS per second to the target dummy. This will be a lot of damage to any boss. As a bonus tip, depending on what weapon you're using, the blade or the staff, this second or third spell called Riptide is a means for mobility. This will channel you through the air, and if you point it upwards, you will go into the air. This is especially good for the Elytra, where you will fly and you can keep on using this ability like a rocket, so you can travel super fast through the air with the Elytra. Alright, now we'll move on to the Fire Mage. I'm going to skip to endgame this time because all the concepts of the Frost Mage is pretty much the same as the Fire Mage. You pretty much get the fire robes in mid game and keep using the wizard stuff and fire staff in early game. So in end game, you have 2 weapon choices. You have the scythe and you have the staff that you can use. Also for your armor, you want netherite fire robe with Sunfire 5 instead of Soul Frost. Sunfire 5 and Amplify spell is going to be your main enchantments that you can use. You can also put diamond trims on your armor, which I haven't done, but it doesn't increase my damage, so I left that out. You also have to get the Fire Techniques books. Also for your accessories, you have to get the Pendant of Sunfire and also Sunflare Signets, 2 of them. And those are going to be your 3 main accessories that you're going to wear. For your talent tree, you mainly want all the fire nodes that you can get, even here, and basically get the Fate Fire Arcane Mage node and then the Cataclysm node. You also want the Empower and Critical Thinking. Also, if you want a bit more extra critical damage, you can get the Arcane nodes. And for your weapon, for the Scythe, you can get the Fire nodes and get the Void's Hunger, and then you can go straight here, or you can go these two, it doesn't matter. Your 5th spell is going to be your most damage spell, and with this, you're going to do about 1000 damage, give or take. It's going to build up from 600, and then it's going to go all the way to 1000. And then your 6th spell will also be good for damage. It's a constantly, if the boss is staying still or is in a loading animation, you can do the 6th spell, which does a bunch of hits all together, and this does about 1200. It can go up to 1500, and that is a lot of damage with this scythe. As you can see, this is just constant pressure with the 5th and 6th spell, and it does a lot of damage. And your second spell also does a lot of constant damage. And for your second option, you can also go for the Ekavor Great Cinderstone Staff. For the staff, once again, you will go for spell critical damage, straight like that, and get Fire Infusion. And you will only have 4 spells with the staff. Your strongest spell should be your 3rd. So let's test that. As I suspected, it does do a little bit less damage than the scythe, but still, this is great damage. It can go up to 1000, 1100, but that's basically how much you're gonna do. Alright, now we're on to the Arcane class. This class is a bit more worse, but it still is good for mobility and spell penetration. Spell penetration is pretty good against bosses, so I wouldn't count this class out. It is still pretty good. So for the weapon, you only have one choice this time, which is the staff. You could also go for the Supernova as your weapon, which does do arcane damage a bit, but I wouldn't recommend this because this has other spells that trigger with other like spell damage class, like fire and frost in here, so I wouldn't really go for this one. So your main weapon is going to be the Cinderstone Staff, and I just realized this is not even enchanted, but I have a backup. Alright, so this is going to be your main weapon. You should have these spells on here as your main spells, and you should have the same spells as same enchantments as the fire robe. Sunfire counts for fire and arcane power, so it's fine. So you should have these enchantments. For your accessories, you should have the arcane techniques as your book, and Amulet of Unfettered Magics should be your necklace, and for your ring you should have the Ring of Omnipotence, and 2 of them. So that's going to be your main accessories and build for this class. For your talent tree, you're gonna follow this build. So as you can see, you go for magic penetration, you get all the arcane nodes, get empower and critical thinking, and for your fate talent, you want to get the arcane archmage for more spell critical damage and arcane power, rather than this one, which does less damage. So this is what you're going to want, and you can get some fire notes for more spell critical chance. And yeah, that's going to be your fate talent tree. And for your skeletal weapon, you can take these. You can also go this route by getting this critical damage one, so for more damage. And for this, you get arcane infusions, which gives you 30% more arcane power. So for now, your best spell on here is going to be the 3rd spell, which, let's see, if I replace this dummy, it should do a lot of damage. Yep, So it does about the same as as the Frost and Fire one. So yeah, you can see it's about 800 damage. I think the Sunfire one and Frost one does do a bit more damage because it doesn't have spell penetration on this, and Arcane has spell penetration, which does a bit more to mobs with spell resistance. So it does technically do a lot of damage to like mobs and mobs with spell resistance, like magic resistance. So it is really good still. And as a bonus tip, you can also use a 4th spell for your Elytra. So like this, you can fly around, go higher. It's pretty good. I don't think it's as good as the Soul Frost one, but it's still pretty good. So yeah, that's the guide on all the wizard classes. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys found this useful, and let me know if you guys would try this out in Prominence and Prominence II. And if you guys enjoyed, please subscribe and like, and see you later.